This week's news that KBEQ's Randy Miller is leaving town again fits right in with Randy Mason's story about the way morning drive time radio is handled at 3 other stations. It's a subject Randy has had close contact with in the past.
That's right, John. About 3 years ago at this time, I was on my way to becoming a statistic, about to go down in the record books as having fought the good fight in the morning radio wars and lost. Not normally being an early riser, my 15 months with Drake & Company on KCFX almost seems like a very strange dream to me now. But having lived through the experience, I do feel uniquely qualified to show you some of the folks who still have jobs in morning drive time, which in commercial radio is definitely prime time. Their mission is really quite simple. Find a way to keep you from doing this, at home or on your way to work. Successful morning radio personalities are handsomely rewarded, not only with bigger bucks, but also considerably more freedom on air than the assembly line DJs you tend to hear during the rest of the day. On the downside, it does wreak havoc with their internal clocks.
Some people start the day with a cigarette. Some of the carbohydrate Joe.
County credit cards, apartment keys, jewelry, all tied to murdered women can be used in a Johnson County trial. The local school administrator charged in a love triangle attack in Gladstone. Dan has those stories, and Sarah has your 5-day forecast next on News Talk 980 KMBZ. KMBZ News Time 624.
You know, most people listen to the radio in the morning, so therefore that's where the most pressure is, and that's where the most competition is, and therefore that's where the most money is. But basically, I'm a morning guy in a nightclub singer's body. I mean, if I could do what I wanted to do, I'd get up at 11 o'clock in the morning and stay up till probably 3 or 4 in the morning. I mean, I love it. I love the nighttime.
And wait for my morning man. He's my morning man.
Again at 7:20, and again one more time at 8:20 here on the Morning Country Club. Just listen up. We'll actually play a piece of the KFKF $10,000 song of the day, and we'll also tell you the times you can win.
And if that wasn't enough, you said, wow, how can any day be more exciting than that? Well, you see, today is also Dan Roberts' 40th birthday.
Oh, God.
Happy birthday to you, Dan.
You do a lot of it in your home hours, reading periodicals, Sports Illustrated or a Wall Street Journal or just the daily paper. You do a lot of it at home, and which my wife is real happy about most of the time.
Don't bother me. I've got to read my paper.
That's
Don't
right.
bother me, kids. I'm watching this program.
That's right. You do a lot of work at home that nobody ever sees, but it's fun to come in and have things to talk about.
A wrench, a crescent wrench, a tack.
A what?
A tack.
I don't know.
I think that's a good answer. Tack's in there. When you hang posters, come on. You got your Rolling Stones poster you want to hang, you're going to find a tack. And we're going to give you, we'll give you for the 2 wrenches because you said a crescent wrench and then a regular wrench.
Oh, a big
deal.
deal.
You know what Max said before you came in? He goes, she'll never get any of these. Because you're a girl.
A woman.
Exactly.
I didn't mean it that way.
Yeah, you did.
Do you have to get along well with the people you work with on a morning show to do good radio?
I don't think you have to, but it probably helps, you know. But I don't think you have to. I don't think you can hate each other. Although, that's work too, actually.
No, actually, he's not bad. You know, kind of just like rubs his face and like, God, why am I here? That kind of, cheerful, I'd call that.
All 3 of these shows are what's known in the business as full service, meaning they pack your mornings with news, weather, sports, traffic, and some entertainment. Each is comfortably within Kansas City's top 10, though admittedly well behind the perennial top dog.
I think that if you're talking about morning radio and you want to know what works, I think you have to look at 61 Country, WDAF. They get 1/6 of all the radio listening that gets done in Kansas City, which is phenomenal. If you take the stations that do second best and the stations that do third best and you put them together, you still don't have what WDAF 61 Country has.
It's a good point. But since this is my story, I've decided not to feature Randy Miller either. Actually, Kansas City's Bad Boy slipped a little bit in the ratings this summer. And it's important to remember that even as prominent a personality as he can't necessarily get people to cross certain boundaries.
I mean, yeah, asking who their favorite station is, it's basically a music decision. And the talents, of course, are a very important part, but hardly anybody goes, well, I absolutely hate rock and roll music, but I sure love to listen to Max Santana.
And we found that there are some people, there are large groups of people listening to stations only out of habit, not out of loyalty right now, because they're listening to people because they haven't found anything else that they like better.
Some morning habits can be pretty hard to break. And it appears that a big part of the monkey on Kansas City's back is country music. Together, WDAF and KFKF have 25% of the morning listening audience. I suppose if music were all that people were after, Dan and Mary could eat their breakfast a little closer to sunrise than they do. One of the few good things you can say about 4 a.m. is that there's no traffic. About 4:20, the carpooling duo hits the lobby of the Sailors Building, KFKF's new location.
You weren't meant to get up that early. I mean, when it's your body, there's something about when it's dark, you're not really meant to get up at that time. But you do become somewhat accustomed to it, and that helps a lot.
So does coffee, normally already made by the all-night guy. Since he's out ill, Dan answers the caffeine call. Before, during, and after, this country club doesn't discriminate.
7 o'clock is the changing of the guard. From 5 to 7, I run the board, and from 7 to 9. So this is definitely an equal show.
Yeah, we try to make it as equal as possible. There's some radio shows where the men just kind of take over and do everything, but we try to make it as equal as possible because part of the charm of our show, hopefully, is that the women can go, yeah, when Mary says something, and the guys can go, yeah, when I say something.
By the way, Mary gave me this button here, and it's kind of upside down. I can't remember what it says. I forget. Can you tell me? What does it say here? Do you
No, but I'm older than you are.
What does it say, Mary?
See, at my age, I'm entitled to forget.
That's what I thought it said.
Don't
I'm
forget
older
it.
than dirt.
That's news guy Randy Birch chiming in. Listeners also hear a lot of Neil Jones from the Weather Channel via satellite, and themselves on things like the 740 Joke.
Good morning, Dan Roberts and Mary
We
McInnes.
live for our listeners, and they can make your show. I mean, especially today we had a lot of birthday greetings. Without the listeners, without the phone, the show would have just dragged, but they make it lively.
Call back real quick.
Since the station aims for a slightly younger audience than 61 Country, they're more music intensive. In a morning show context, that means whatever direction a conversation or interview may go, it still needs to be concise.
Sounds like Andy Mayberry or Andy Griffith ought to be at something like Mayberry.
Yeah, well, we're not all that far from Mount Pilot.
But they let us do a lot of things that we want to do. And if we want to cover a topic this morning, we did a joke a bit about the confusion over the Air Force stealth bomber and now the stealth condoms that are out, you know. And so a few years ago, frankly, they would have had a problem with that. But I think the country station management is loosening up these days.
Sometimes what I've been hearing more than anything else is that a particular station is going too far, is being a little too risque. And it's not the same station. There's about 3 or 4 of them that come up.
And you can just about bet that KY102 gets mentioned from time to time. Max Floyd is known for holding candid conversations. Once an adult film star dropped by the studio's Au Natural. These days, his theater of the mind is heavily laced with comedy sketches, some locally written, some from outside services.
What's going on here? Barney? I'm producing a music video.
Even with all the activity, the key word is casual.
We just hope people will just kind of walk in and out. It's kind of like life, right? I mean, you don't turn a mic on and off in life. People just kind of walk into your life and walk out of your life. And it's I guess that's sort of the way the show is. The music has to be correct, obviously, and we try to play as much music as we can. But people in the morning, it seems to us, want something more than music. They want all the information we give them, plus maybe a chuckle or two. And so we sometimes use the music as a bridge to get from one chuckle to the next.
Since Max began doing mornings in 1983, He's been through a number of partners, both male and female. Earlier this year, the station let John Hart go, leaving a considerably bigger role for Tana Guthrie.
You take the Bible as a history book.
Where else can you read about the Canaanites in such detail? Come on.
Tana says
Having done some talk show hosting herself, the tart-tongued Tana seems more than able to hold her own and maybe bring along some more female listeners to the traditionally male-dominated format.
Rock and roll is more of a guy thing. I think that's a perception, but it's not, because, of course, women love rock and roll. We live for it. You know, look at your famous groupies. Who are they? Women. Yeah.
The station has a long history of taking the show on the road for special occasions, like home invasions, where the two come to your house, eat breakfast, and rifle your drawers. But when you're talking special, nothing compares with the annual Elvis Parade downtown.
So many people get involved with it, and I like it. It's just a real fun, stupid, maybe I shouldn't say stupid.
Sure you should.
Well,
It's accurate.
But it's a real fun, goofy parade. And I really do think it is a tribute to Elvis, sort of. Okay, so we're just doing it for publicity, but I mean, it's a good parade.
Since being away from the station limits them technically, Max prefers to choose his remotes carefully. Some of their best ideas come from brainstorming sessions with assistant program director Scott Serrata. As you can see, they've got it down to an art.
Call me soon. We'll be home later, okay? Bye.
See ya. These days, the music that Max and Tana are playing is devoid of metal and heavy on tunes from the 60s and 70s. Maybe trying to grab some baby boomers who don't like the classic rock and sports approach that the Fox has gone to. Actually, this summer, Gretz and McCabe pulled in the kind of numbers the station used to. And now with Chiefs games on Sundays, they're obviously hoping to carry over that audience throughout the rest of the week. But some have their doubts.
You know, we're working harder than ever to try and convert baseball listening to other listening in the radio station, and it's getting harder and harder to do.
Basically, Waldo says that as soon as the game's over, people turn back to their old reliables. It's one of the reasons the station decided to revamp its morning show. Instead of spreading their news resources throughout the day, they're all there in the morning now, with Ray Dunaway serving as a sort of information ringmaster.
Checking more of Kansas City's morning news, here's Dan Verbeck.
Here's Sarah Krug with a look at the forecast.
Here's Bob with Morning Sport.
Ray, maybe it is.
Ironically, the changes were made before this summer's ratings came in, showing the previous music and talk approach doing surprisingly well. Dunaway, ever the tactful veteran, chalks it up to the vagaries of this business he's wanted to be in since he was a kid.
The radio, you know, is really, of all the media, is probably the closest to magic. You've got to use your imagination. I mean, that's kind of why I got into it. And so any format I can do where you can use your imagination, and there are precious few stations that let you do that. You know, it's fun to do. I mean, you can do, whether it's talk or news or playing records or whatever, you know, if you can fire that, use the audience's powers of imagination and force them to use them. I mean, you can't listen to the radio without thinking something.
Now, honestly, can you picture Dave Dawson doing this? Not being a nap taker, Ray's been known to spend hours at the keyboard, reliving his past and pondering such things as the very future of AM radio.
Mornings forces you to hit the ground running. And the thing is, you know, once the terror of getting up and doing the show is over, you know, you have quite a bit of time.
A little sunshine in my life. Thanks. Sarah says sunny today, and no, cloudy today. Well, why don't you do this?
If you do your job and if you're doing the thing you should be doing, I mean, you're actually, I hope, making them start with, you know, the day a little bit better. But I mean, God, you know, I don't care if I ever see another sunrise. I really don't.
One thing seems certain. As long as people have places to be in the morning, they'll find it comforting to know that someone else is already there and more or less on top of things. It's just who those people will be that's always subject to sudden change.
Everything is cyclical, and so when it's quiet now, you can be sure that just foretells a time when it'll be more active. That's the one thing you seem to learn when you follow this thing, is that nothing really changes, it just happens in cycles.